Welcome to the SOB radio show, where we have fun, interesting guests, and hot topics. Each week, we offer insights into music, fashion, health, fitness, and humor. Do you have the perfect guest for us to interview? I want to know. Drop me a line on our Facebook page at Spunky Old Broad 1 or reach out to me on our website at spunkyoldbroad.com. And now, back to the show.
Hi, everybody. This is Gail Carson with the SOB Show. And before we start our show, I just want to invite you all to subscribe to my Spunky Old Broad YouTube channel, and also go to my website, spunkyoldbroad.com, where you'll find my programs, and you will find, my store that I have, wonderful clothing and mugs and things like that. And also you can subscribe to my newsletter and hear the rest of the shows that we do and so forth. But I have a lady with me today, Dr. Candy Campbell, and she has more initials after her name than I do. I thought I had a lot, but she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 initials after her name other than the doctor. She is an international speaker, an award-winning actor, a filmmaker, an author, and she works with individuals and corporations to improve interprofessional communication, leadership, and team development. And within the field of nursing, she has worked as a clinician administrator and academic. Now, you would think that that is one side of a personality, very techy, very analytical, but listen to this. She's been a professional actor since her first international commercial in the mid-'70s. She's performed on stages in 4 countries, appeared in film, network TV, voiceovers, and commercials. She co-founded an improv and stand-up comedy troupe in the San Francisco area and has taught improv to all ages and stages since 1995. And as if that isn't enough, she began her business, Peripatetic Productions, in her mid-40s to produce the award-winning film Micro Premature Babies, How Low Can You Go? And followed that with Peripatetic Publishing. She's also a spunky old broad, and she says she still loves life and the work she does to bring joy to the world. And she is working and now has her 3rd solo show, a character portrayal of that polymath Florence Nightingale. And as if all of that is not enough, she's currently writing book number 2 of a series. Wow, Candy Campbell, you are one not to sit still, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Gail. I always say I'm easily bored, so I do a lot of different things.
I'll bet you do. So here you were, an entrepreneur in your 70s, and you reflected back to your mid-40s when you had to reinvent yourself because you were a single mom, which I'm finding is a theme with many of the women that I'm interviewing for this particular show, that many of them became single moms when they least expected it. So what caused you to start a business at that point in your life?
Oh, yes. Divorce is a singular catapult. I think you're right. That is a theme. And, for me, because I was married for 16 years and my husband, as I call him, didn't want me on the stage anymore. For whatever reason, I won't go into that, but I started launching out into other areas to express myself artistically, became a painter, actually. My house is full of my paintings. But in the meantime, then I had sole support of my 3 children who were aged 8, 11, and 13 at the time, it was pretty grim. I moved 300 miles closer to family support during that time. And then my brother, who was a project engineer with Bechtel, if you know Bechtel Construction, they're a very big company worldwide. They got transferred just after we got to the San Francisco area near them. And I was just so depressed. And I think it all started when a counselor asked me, what would you do if there were no limitations? And I said, I'd find some way to laugh more, and I'd get back into acting. And so that was the launch right there. That idea. I need to laugh.
You,
I didn't. Yeah.
it's interesting. A couple things here. You hear all the stories about women who get divorced and the man is left with nothing and the woman gets everything. And yet you said you were a sole support. So
Mm,
your husband was not supportive in terms of finance.
no. No.
And that's interesting that he was able to get away with that. But let's talk about where you are now. So for those who don't know you, tell us about your business before COVID.
Well, before COVID, 2020 was going to be a great year because for those in healthcare, you would know that the World Health Organization had named 2020 the year of the nurse and the midwife because Florence Nightingale's 200th birthday came in 2020. So my third solo show was booked in 3 countries, and I was busy, busy, busy until the curtain came down and COVID-19 came. So I had been speaking all over the place, and I had been performing, I've been teaching, I've been coaching. Everything stopped.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it just stopped and that was the end of it. So what did you do?
Well, as they say, I went underground. um, I moved in with my daughter for a while. Well, first of all, I had moved from San Francisco cross country to the DC area because my only grandchildren live here. So that was important. And it came just before COVID. So I had gotten myself a little apartment, but it was in a 300-person building. And my daughter came and said, "Oh, Mom, you need to come live with us to ride this out." So happily, she's got a big house with an unfinished basement. And I just, went, bought some lights, and I already had a professional mic. And, I fitted myself out with a video production studio in her basement originally before I bought my house. And that's it. Suddenly learned, how to use Zoom more. And I just did what everybody else did, I think, in our business, Gail. I just went with the flow and adapted.
Well, of course, that's how, you have to do it. Otherwise, you don't survive at all.
Mm.
And there's people that, say, "Oh, I'm zoomed out and I don't want to do this anymore. And I miss the hugs and I miss the contact with the people." And I certainly am a people person, and I'm certainly someone who traveled a lot. But I don't really care if I go anywhere anymore. And I'm perfectly happy meeting people on Zoom and connecting with them and so forth. But, you're a senior citizen now, and you've got some challenges, I would think, and you've also had some surprises. So what are some of the things that you have faced, both as, good, the surprises, and the challenges?
Well, I would say, thinking of the challenges, I am blessed with good health. So the main challenge for me has been getting enough sleep because I think we have something in common, Gail, and that is, as a spunky old broad, we're watching the sands of time go through that hourglass and realizing that if we want to finish well, we need to, and I don't just mean monetarily, I mean doing the things that I believe you're put on this earth to do, whatever that is, to bring joy to other people. You need to not stop and just clip coupons, but keep going, keep reinventing, and keep in tune with what's going on so you can be vibrant. So that's the challenge, But there have been surprises, especially since COVID. I would say one of them is that one of our National Speakers Association friends, Sharon Weinstein, another nurse, and myself, she also lives in this area, and we've been good buddies for many years, always have a lot of to talk about. We were complaining right after COVID came for a couple of weeks, and then suddenly our conversation changed, and we both had this idea: what can we do to we each have our own business, to survive and thrive and give back during this time. And so we thought, well, what does the world need? The world in healthcare, our target market, needs free education and encouragement. And so we thought, well, what about if we give a conference, a virtual conference? We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to book a hotel, all of that. And so we thought, well, how are we going to keep it free? So we got some sponsors. We created an LLC. We call it Lead for Excellence. And we put on our first conference it was November. And our next virtual conference is coming up in October. We had hundreds of people on board with us. We got some sponsors, and that has been a huge surprise. We have a LinkedIn Live. We're getting into what you're doing, podcasting. We're going to be launching that pretty soon. I never would have thought of that. Plus, I did not know, and my agent did not know. Have my agent who books the Nightingale Show. We both did not know that a virtual conference could even be a possibility, and that people would be willing to pay me as a speaker to perform live virtually and or recorded virtually. And those things have happened.
Well, it's interesting because people, actually virtual conferences that are done well are even more successful than in-person conferences, because people don't have to spend the money to fly. They don't have to stay in a hotel. And you can really gather people from globally around the world, rather than just, a local area or even within a particular, let's say, territory like the United States. So virtually, I think that this will continue to be the trend, or at least maybe a hybrid version of it, in the near future, because yes, people want to get back together and they want to go to a hotel and they want to, they want to eat out and they want to do all of that. But also there are a lot of people that are just happy, not having to travel anywhere. So exactly. I think that, you've hit upon a really good formula. And I know Sharon's been on my show and she's great. And she has a terrific background as well. So the two of you together are two dynamos that I just think are fantastic. So, if you are looking at women who are 50 plus, and that magic thing when a woman hits 50, she thinks, well, life is over, and I keep saying it's just begun. But what on earth would you tell someone who is looking to reinvent themselves after the age of 50?
It's interesting you asked that, because I have been coaching with a number of women who are over 50 who that's exactly, I have two people I'm coaching right now. That's exactly where they are. And the first thing I want to say is that I was surprised. I didn't even reach out to them. They reached out to me. And I thought, why did they reach out to me? Well, obviously, because I keep forgetting I'm going to be 73 pretty soon. And that I have continued to reinvent myself over the years. So the thing that I always start with is a SWOT analysis. And, that's not a new concept. There are many ways of self-analyzing, the Strength Finder, the DISC, all of these different ones, which are all excellent. I think, though, for me, it's so quick and so easy to do a SWOT analysis. And then I recommend to these women that you do it. You do look at yourself in that critical way and encouraging way every 90 days. And that you begin all of this, if you're trying to reinvent yourself, with a question of what happened to me that I told you. What would you do if there were no limitations? Go wild with your imagination. What would you do? Forget about money or education or letters behind your name or whatever, or even experience. What would you do? What gives you joy? And then we'll figure out how to bring that joy in your work to other people, because I think we don't even realize that we have this inbred passion and gifts, I would say, gifts to do certain things that we're just good at. We can get better. Just like if you want to pick up a musical instrument, you have to practice every day so that your fingers are dexterous. But anything that you're passionate about, then you will willingly spend time doing. And I just tease that out.
Well, it's interesting. I guess you really have to say, how do you want your day to look? In other words, if you had your choice, how do you want to get up and have your day look? And that's exactly, how you should frame what it is you want to do. Now, I mean, some people have these big grandiose plans, and others it's very simplistic. But the point is that what gives you pleasure all day long? And it really makes a big difference. Now, one of the things is so funny, although I certainly am a workaholic in many ways, I love to just lay in bed with my cat next to me, and she's almost like a dog. I mean, wherever I am, she is. And, it's just so nice to lie in bed and have her right next to me, and she's curled up nice and tight. And I think to myself, I guess if I had my choice, maybe I'd never move. I don't know. But the point is that you do have to let your imagination run free. And that, I think, is much more difficult, really, as you get older. You ask kids about imagine this or imagine that, Candy, and they can come up with all kinds of things because they have no limitations. But as we get older, and especially over 50, we think of all the reasons why not. We think of all the reasons why we can't. And so it's a very difficult thing to be able to kind of put us in the the air and say, okay, what is it that would make you happy? And I noticed that you were talking about writing this book number 2. Where did all that come from, and what is this about?
Okay, well, I'll tell you, the the book series is all about improv, and it's interesting. It dovetails into exactly what you were just saying, because the whole principle of improvisation, if you've read about it or taken any classes, is that you begin a mindset with saying yes and to everything. Now, that doesn't mean you can't negate something, And as a healthcare person, when I do leadership training and all, it's a very difficult concept to even pitch to leadership, because we're trained that we must be one of 3 persons who are responsible to avoid accidents. And so we say yes, but all the time. And so I tell people that the mindset of saying yes and to yourself and your future and whatever else that we were just discussing is a practice like, well, let's say a ballet dancer or even a football player, somebody who needs to go to the gym and exercise their muscles. Saying yes and getting into a positive mindset is of affirmations, if you will. It's a practice. It's a memory practice. And I'll tell you, before I get into the books that I will, this is the long way of answering your question. There's a book that I always recommend because I've gone through it so many times and continue to go through it. A little plug for Julia Cameron and The Artist's Way, which for somebody over 50 who, just like you said, thinks, oh, there's so many limitations. Yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. It's a very gentle way of leading you into understanding more about yourself. It's, if you will, guided journaling, and helps you to reset that mental mindset. Now, that said, because of my early training in improv, which helped me get to a positive mindset, I realized after 1995, when I was first approached to teach it, fellow came to one of our shows. People always came to these improv shows and afterwards asked the four of us, oh, you must have planned that one out or something like this. And we always said, no, you'll never see those scenes again, right? They were improvised. And he was very taken with the ability that we had as a group. And he said, can you come and teach my engineers how to play nice with each other? And so, as it turned out, I was the only one of the four of us who had any education, curriculum education training. So that's how it started. And, years go by, and again, to reinvent oneself, I realized that I was traveling a lot. And again, Gail, just like you said, not wanting, gosh, when you get stuck in an airport and the weather doesn't cooperate, and there's so many things that can go wrong with your day when you're having to depend upon flying all over well, as it turned out, the world. And I thought, if I could just write this book, it would help. I could train some of these other people. And so that was the first book, Improv to Improve Healthcare, a system for creative problem solving. And then I realized, improvisation as a mindset. The second book is Improv to Improve Your Leadership Team. It's taking it in a slightly different direction. The third book is Improv to Improve Your Self-Confidence. And the fourth book is Improv to Improve Your Public Speaking. So there you have it. I'm throwing it out there.
All very, very, very interesting, because no one, I don't think, certainly I've never thought of improv in that particular fashion. I've known about improv, of course, for a long time. And I know that it helps you think on your feet, and I know it helps your creativity, but I would never have particularly thought about it in the four different areas that you just said. We're about to come down to our first break. And, there's a lot of other things I want to ask you about, Candy. But, as you can tell, listeners, Candy has led a very diverse and interesting life. And, she's 73 and she has just begun. She's just begun the fight. And that's what this is all about. This is about the fact that it doesn't matter whether you're 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or even 90. You can continue the fight. You can continue to be who it is you want to be. You can continue to do the things that you like to do. And I think that, I think that all of this, I hope you're taking as a message to step and put your toe in the water, as I always like to say. You don't have to go big. You don't have to go dramatic. You don't have to go, oh gosh, look at me, world, what I'm doing. You just have to start. And that's really what it's all about. It's just starting. And Candy is showing you how. And you know something, Candy, I'm just thinking about it as you mentioned all those improv books. Do some improv with yourself. Talk to yourself in the mirror and answer yourself, and just pretend that you're a couple of different characters. And what would you tell yourself? It would make all the difference in the world, I think, if you approached your the second part of your life in that perspective. Well, here I am. This is who I am. Well, if I were all these different people, what would I be like? And talk to yourself and answer yourself. I think a part of that is what we're all about. So when we come back, I'm going to ask you. You mentioned something that catapulted you out of the acting arena for many years, and I'm going to ask you when we come back how it changed your life and all of that. I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about. So hang in there, folks, because we will be back shortly with Candy Campbell. And as you can tell, she's a nurse by training. She's a professional actor by training. She is an author because she wants to be. And she is a spunky old broad. So stick with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes.